The old mansion loomed, a silhouette against the dying light. Its once grand structure now stood as a ghostly reminder of a bygone era, its windows like hollow eyes staring into the abyss of the approaching night. Twisted trees like skeletal fingers clawed at the fading sky. Their gnarled branches seemed to whisper secrets of the past, tales of sorrow and despair that had long been forgotten by the living. 5 friends, young and foolish, approached with laughter and bravado. They were drawn by the thrill of the unknown, the promise of adventure in the face of fear. Each step they took was a defiance of the warnings they had heard, a challenge to the legends that surrounded the mansion. Their breath rose in ghostly plumes, the only warmth in the growing cold. The chill in the air seemed to seep into their bones, a prelude to the icy grip of terror that awaited them inside. Inside, dust lay thick, undisturbed for decades. It coated every surface, a testament to the years of neglect and abandonment. The air was heavy with the scent of decay, a reminder of the lives that had once filled these rooms. Cobwebs draped like macabre decorations. They hung from the ceiling and clung to the corners, their intricate patterns a silent witness to the passage of time. The air hung heavy, thick with the silence of ages. It was an oppressive silence, one that seemed to press down on them, amplifying every creak and whisper. Each footstep echoed a drumbeat in the stillness, a prelude to terror. The sound reverberated through the empty halls, a stark reminder of their intrusion into this forgotten place. "Spooky but cool," Mark said, his voice echoing in the vast hall. His words seemed to hang in the air, a brave front masking the unease that gnawed at his insides. He shivered, though whether from cold or fear, no one could tell. The temperature seemed to drop with each passing second, the cold seeping into their very souls. The others laughed nervously, their eyes darting to the shadows that seemed to deepen with each passing moment. Their laughter was a fragile thing, a thin veneer over the growing sense of dread. As twilight surrendered to night, the mansion seemed to awaken. The darkness brought with it a sense of foreboding, as if the house itself was coming to life, its secrets ready to be revealed. Floorboards creaked underfoot, their groans like the moans of the damned. Each step they took seemed to disturb the very fabric of the house, stirring the spirits that lay dormant within. A sudden gust of wind slammed a shutter against the house, the sound like a scream in the darkness. It was a jarring noise, one that sent a shiver down their spines and made their hearts race. The laughter died, replaced by a prickling unease. The atmosphere grew heavier, the sense of impending doom palpable. They could feel the eyes of the mansion upon them, watching, waiting.
"Did you hear that?" Emily whispered, her eyes wide with fear. "I thought I heard someone calling my name."
"It's just the wind, Em. Old houses make noises." But even he sounded unconvinced.
Dinner was a strained affair. Whispers seemed to emanate from the walls, rustling drapes, sighs in the chimney. Sarah, always the sensitive one, felt a cold spot by the fireplace, a bone-chilling presence that clung to her like an icy shroud. The darkness seemed to press in, suffocating, filled with unseen eyes. Later, gathered around a flickering candle, they explored the mansion. Each room seemed to exude a palpable sadness, a weight of sorrow that settled on their chests. In the master bedroom, they found a child's doll, its porcelain face cracked, a single eye staring blankly into the void.
"This is insane," Mark muttered, his face pale in the dim light filtering through the grimy window. The air was thick with dust, and every creak of the old wooden floorboards sent chills down his spine. Shadows danced on the walls, making the mansion feel alive, as if it were watching their every move. "We need to get out of here," he insisted, his voice trembling with urgency. The sense of dread was overwhelming, and the walls seemed to close in on them, making it hard to breathe.
But it was too late. The mansion had them in its grip. The doors they had entered through were now locked, and the windows, once their potential escape routes, were now sealed shut by an unseen force.
The attic, dusty and forgotten, held the secrets of the mansion. It was a place untouched by time, filled with relics of the past. Old trunks covered in cobwebs lined the walls, and the air was thick with the scent of decay. Amongst the cobwebs and broken furniture, they found a leather-bound journal, its pages brittle with age. The cover was worn and the leather cracked, but it was clear that this journal held stories that had been hidden for decades. The spidery handwriting spoke of another time, another life. Each word seemed to echo with the voice of its long-dead author, filling the room with an eerie presence. The journal belonged to the mansion's original owner, a man named Elias Blackwood. He was a figure shrouded in mystery, a man whose life was as enigmatic as the mansion itself. He wrote of strange rituals, of forbidden knowledge, of a darkness he had unleashed. His entries were filled with detailed descriptions of ceremonies and incantations, things that no one should ever attempt. His words, filled with regret and terror, sent shivers down their spines. It was clear that Elias had realized too late the consequences of his actions, and his journal was a testament to his fear and remorse. Elias had been dabbling in the occult, attempting to contact the other side. He had been driven by a desire to uncover the unknown, to reach beyond the veil of reality. He had opened a door, he wrote, a door that should never have been opened. This door was not a physical one, but a gateway to another realm, a realm of darkness and despair. Something had come through, something evil. This entity, born of darkness, now roamed the mansion, feeding off the fear and despair of those trapped within its walls. The journal was a warning, a desperate plea from a man who had unleashed a terror beyond comprehension.
That night, plagued by nightmares and a growing sense of dread, they slept little. The air was thick with an unspoken fear, a tension that seemed to seep into their very bones. Every creak of the old house, every rustle of the wind outside felt like a prelude to something sinister. Sarah woke to the feeling of being watched. It was an unsettling sensation, as if invisible eyes were piercing through the darkness, scrutinizing her every move. She opened her eyes to see a figure at the foot of her bed. The room was dimly lit by the moonlight filtering through the curtains, casting eerie shadows on the walls. It was a woman, ethereal and pale, dressed in a flowing white gown. The gown seemed to shimmer, almost as if it were made of mist, and it moved with a life of its own. Her face was obscured by shadow, but Sarah could feel her eyes, cold and empty, boring into her soul. The intensity of the gaze was paralyzing, a silent command to stay still and watch. She tried to scream, but no sound came out. Her throat felt constricted, as if an invisible hand were choking her, preventing any cry for help. The apparition glided closer, its hand outstretched, its touch like ice. The coldness seeped into Sarah's skin, sending shivers down her spine and freezing her in place. Sarah squeezed her eyes shut, her heart pounding in her chest. She hoped that by closing her eyes, she could make the terrifying vision disappear. When she opened them again, the figure was gone. The room was silent, save for the sound of her own ragged breathing. The others, awakened by her muffled cries, found Sarah trembling, her face white as a sheet. They gathered around her, their faces etched with concern and fear. She tried to tell them what she had seen, but words failed her. Her mind was a whirlwind of images and emotions, too jumbled to form a coherent explanation. They were trapped, hunted by something ancient and malevolent. The house, once a place of refuge, had become a prison, and the lady in white was its warden, watching and waiting for her next move.
Driven by fear and a desperate need for answers, they decided to hold a séance, using an old Ouija board they found in the attic. As the planchette moved, guided by an unseen hand, they felt a chill creep into the room. The air grew heavy, the temperature dropping dramatically. The candle flames danced wildly, casting grotesque shadows on the walls. The planchette spelled out a single word: beware. Suddenly the room plunged into darkness. A blood-curdling scream pierced the silence. Fumbling for their flashlights, they found Emily lying on the floor, her eyes wide with terror, pointing towards a corner of the room. "It's here," she whispered, her voice hoarse with fear. "The lady in white."